You can't just make yourself in charge because you want to be in charge. We're talking about our nation is going through what is supposed to be the peaceful transference of power. I don't know how peaceful it is. I don't know how transference it is, but that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the peaceful transference of power. Power is transferred, not created, not self-induced. It is transferred from one to the other. Somebody has to convey power unto you. Transference of power is the very reason that John pointed out Jesus when he was standing in the Jordan River and said, "Behold, the Lamb of God." He pointed him out. He empowered him. Transference of power. Then after that, he says, "I must decrease that he might increase." Transference of power. Why are you teaching this? We are in the middle of the change. The changing of the guard, the changing of the world, the changing of times. We are right in the middle of not just the charge, not just the challenge, but we are in the middle of changing. Change is uncomfortable. My wife, when she was grieving the loss of her mother, I told her the only thing you can do is be to the kids what she was to you, thereby keeping her alive in your behavior. She died, left you in charge. The older saints are passing off the scene. You're in charge. Are you ready to grow up and stand up and be the person that you were created to be? Or are you stuck in the student's role, knees locked up under a desk, books up under your seat, and you don't know when to get up out of that chair and walk up to the front of the class and teach the course? Let me go, Mama, I got it. No, my time of tutelage was not over. I failed because I left too soon. The prodigal son fell because he went too soon. We are seeing massive failures out of good people making bad mistakes because they went too soon. Paul says, "I will tell you when to go. Now is the time to go." I can tell it's time for you to start because I'm empty. I can tell that you are full because I'm drained. I can tell that you are ready because I'm finished. Do you have a who in your life that pours into you, that builds you up, that strengthens you, that's preparing you? You need that in every area of your life, and they don't always have to be the same person. The person who mentors me in the faith might not be the person who mentors me in finances, might not be the person who mentors me in exercise, may not be the same person who mentors me as a husband. But for every area that you hope to be excellent in, there has to be somebody that pours into you and then decides when they're ready to give you the charge, the challenge, and the change. And then he says to Timothy, if that were not startling enough, if that were not enough to digest, that I have to be what I saw and that I have to show up in the world as my teacher and not as his student. That I have to put on my daddy's shoes and make them fit. That I have to be a grown woman. That I have to be a grown man. That I have to stand up to life. If that were not daunting enough and intimidating enough and enough to make you fall down on your knees and humbling enough to say, God, without you, I can do nothing. Without you, I would fail. Without you, I'd be like a ship without a sail. If it were not enough to make you do that, if it were not enough to drop you to your knees, if it is not enough to get you off of Instagram, making all kinds of crazy posts because you think this is fun. This is not fun. This is life and death. This is not about you. This is about Jesus. This is not about getting people to be attracted to you. This is about getting people to be attracted to Jesus. This is not that willy-nilly stuff that I see passing for ministry today. It's not. Reproof, rebuke with all long suffering is not this willy-nilly stuff that we see to get attention.
It's easy to get satisfied where we are. When we've seen blessing and favor, God's protected us, promoted us, opened doors, we can start thinking that we've seen our best days. But God never does His greatest feats in your yesterdays. They're always in your future. The scripture says the path of the righteous gets brighter and brighter. What God has in front of you is more fulfilling, more rewarding than anything you've seen in the past. But sometimes before it gets brighter, it gets darker. Before we see more than enough, we go through a season of not enough. There are times the good has to come to an end to make room for the best. Doesn't make sense to us. Why did my business slow down? Why did this person walk away? Why did this door close? It's all a part of God's plan. He's shaking things up to move you out of the good into the best. If He didn't close those doors, you wouldn't see the fullness of your destiny. We may not like the process. It's uncomfortable. We're doing the right thing, but the wrong thing is happening. We're working hard, but not seeing increase. Thoughts will tell you it's never going to get better. Don't believe those lies. That disappointment, the breakup, the slow season didn't stop what God has for you. It's getting you in position for favor that you've never seen. Your relationship didn't work out. God knew it was going to happen. That didn't catch Him off guard. He's already lined up someone better than you can imagine. Your business has slowed down. The contract didn't work out. That setback is not stopping you. It's setting you up for new levels. You're going to come out not like you were before, but healthier, stronger, promoted, increased. John chapter 2, Jesus was at a wedding in Galilee. There was a big celebration with hundreds of people. Everything was going great until they ran out of wine. His mother came and told him about the problem. Jesus had not performed any miracles in public up to this point, but she knew something about Jesus that others didn't know. She told the staff to do whatever He asked them to do. There were 6 large water pots over to the side. They held 30 gallons each. Jesus told the men to go fill them with water. I can imagine them thinking, what good is that going to do? But instead of talking themselves out of it, they filled the containers and brought them back to Jesus. He said, now dip some out and take it to the host of the wedding, to the man that's in charge. Verse 9 says, when the host tasted the water that was now wine, he called the groom over and said, usually a host serves the best wine first. Then when everyone is full, doesn't know any better, he brings out the less expensive wines, but you have saved the best until now.
You have something special. You're born for such a time as this. This is a time that we need to be concerned but not consumed with fear, as many people are consumed with fear right now. Or many people are being reckless and just don't take this seriously. Your life has value. Your life is a gift. Life is God's gift to us, and how we live our lives is our gift to God. And so as you look at yourself, look at your goals and dreams, this is a time to look at yourself as Angelica talked about and put in the work, put in the work that's necessary to develop yourself mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And part of what I'm doing now is spending a lot of time creating new ideas, creating ways to earn money virtually from the computer, because the computer eliminates geography. So I'm not getting on any more planes. Over 11,000 people have tested positive flying. Well, that's not happening to me. So what I'm doing now, if you got a story, we're going to share with you how to tell that story, how to create an experience with that story, how to hold attention with that story and transform people individually and collectively. And the proof is in the pudding. That's why I want you to see someone that has been in the program and see how well she handled herself. And you can do that too. Just the statement by Steve Jobs, the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world. Why? Because stories transform people. People hunger more than for food and for water. They hunger for stories that can lift their spirits, particularly now when you're inundated with like 5,000 hits on our minds every day, advertising, different messages, trying to get territory, set up camp. and renting space in our minds. We have to carve out a place that we take care of ourselves. I'm encouraging you. 1, listen to positive messages. 2, turn off the tell lie vision. 3, do something creative. I'm taking singing lessons. I'm training speakers, and I'm exercising. I'm about to take yoga and qigong and working on me. And I'm looking for someone who has some edges that can cut my kid flat top.
I was really interested in that issue of people mistreating themselves, because we are privy to our own weaknesses and faults. We know them better than anyone else knows them. And so it's very easy for us to determine that we're not worthwhile because of all the ways that we don't live up to what we should live up to, and the painful knowledge we have of that, and to not regard ourselves as worthwhile, and to not treat ourselves properly. And that's not good. You have to treat yourself as if you're valuable. And then that is the same attitude that you extend to other people. Well, and it's because you are valuable, and that it's a necessity to adopt the responsibility that goes along with recognizing that. So even if you're not happy with who you are, and even if you have your reasons, you still deserve presumption of innocence. You still deserve to have a good defense mounted on your own behalf. You still need to treat yourself as if you're someone valuable and someone worthy of love, even though you have all reasons to know why you fall short. And that's absolutely crucial, and it is hard for people to learn that. Hard for them to learn not to beat themselves up too much.
Every relationship that you have in your life, or that you've ever had in your life, with every single person, is a reflection of the relationship that you are having with yourself. People come into our life, into our experience, to show us, to demonstrate, to reflect and mirror back to us the places and pieces and parts of ourselves that we cannot see, are unwilling to see, that we deny or dismiss or ignore. Every relationship in your life is a reflection of the relationship that you're having with yourself. Now, right now, if you're having some resistance to that, if you're thinking about your ex or your ex-mother-in-law or your girlfriend or somebody that betrayed you, and your mind is telling you that can't be true, that's not right, that's it. That's it right there. Because there are parts of us, there are things about us that we simply cannot see. Sometimes we don't want to see. Sometimes we see and then we ignore or deny. You see, each and every one of us has what we call a shadow part. That's the part of us that we hide and cover and covet. Those pieces and aspects and things about ourselves that we find unpleasant or unacceptable. We tuck them away in the shadow. And someone will come into our life and reflect a light on that shadow. And that's when we see it. We see it in them. People come into our lives and they mirror back to us the pieces and parts of ourselves that we cannot, will not, do not want to see. And it's all a reflection of the relationship that we're having with ourselves. Do you love you? I mean, really love and accept you? Do you trust you? Do you trust your own thoughts and feelings? Do you honor you? Do you respect you? And where did you learn how to do that? Because so many of us have a disjointed or dysfunctional relationship with ourselves because of what we've seen and what we've been taught and what we've been told. And the relationship that we have with ourselves more often than not mirrors what we've been taught and what we've seen and what we've experienced. But in order to truly grow and evolve in our soul and our way of being, we want to develop a relationship with ourselves, a good, solid, loving, functional relationship with ourselves. So how do you do that, Miss Iyama? How do you develop a relationship with yourself? Well, it starts here. Who am I? Not what do I do. Who am I when the lights are off and I'm naked and I stand before the mirror? Who am I? This is a question you must answer. Not who were you taught to be, who were you told to be, who you think you should be. Who are you? And there's a very simple way to find out. Ask yourself, what are those things about you that come forward, those things that make you tick, those things that pump you up, those things that drag you down? Who am I? You've got to answer that question. And don't judge yourself if you don't know it. So very often we think if we're 30 or 40 or 50 years old, we need to know. But how many of us have really sat and asked the question? We know what we do. We know what is expected of us. We know what our obligations and responsibilities are. But who am I in the middle of the night when I wake up and there's nobody there? Who am I in a crowd of people where I feel uncomfortable? Answer that question. The next step to really developing a healthy relationship with yourself is understanding what matters to you. What do you value? Do you value freedom? Do you value peace? Do you value external validation? How do you discover that? Again, pen to paper. What matters to me is. Because very often we go into relationships and settle for less than we want, deserve, or desire because we don't know what matters to us and we don't know how to ask for it. And more often than not, we don't expect to get it. But when you know who you are, when you know what you value, when you know what matters to you, every relationship that you go into, you will expect and you will receive reciprocation for who you are and what you give and what matters and what you value, because you will attract to you more of who you are. Like draws like. That's just the law. That's how it works. The next step, see yourself. See yourself at your best and see yourself as your worst, and don't judge it. Accept it. Self-acceptance. There are some things about me that I love, and there are some things about me that I'd rather nobody ever knew. But you know what I've learned to do? I've learned to put that stuff out front. I don't hide it, I don't deny it, I don't lie about it, and when it shows up in my face, either in someone else's behavior or when I'm in my stuff, doing my thing, I accept it. Self-acceptance. See yourself. Know yourself. Accept all of who you are without judging it. So very often we think we should be somewhere else, doing something else. We think we should be in another place in life and we should have more. Well, if you don't know who you are and what matters and what values, what you got is what you've created from a lack of knowledge of yourself. See yourself. Know yourself. Accept yourself without judgment. Appreciate yourself. No matter where you are today, you got you there. The good and the not so good. No matter who you are today, you've been with you through it all. Appreciate who you are. And finally, honor yourself. Honor your feelings. Honor your thoughts. Honor your gifts. Honor your strengths. Honor your weaknesses. Work on those things that need to be worked on. Give yourself permission to explore, to stand up, to fall down, to not be perfect all the time. Honor who you are, where you are, what you do, how you do it, and commit yourself to be better.
You are a choice-making individual, and that all of the conditions that you find yourself in your life, all of the circumstances of your life, all of the emotional reactions that you have to all of the people and all of the things and events and so on that take place in your life, you can't help the way that you are. You indeed are the product of all of the choices that you've made up until this moment. Circumstances do not make a man, they reveal him. Which means that in order to rid yourself or get past the negativity and the doubt and the judgment and the kinds of emotional reactions that get in your way, you have to put responsibility first and foremost on yourself. You have to rid yourself of the inclination to blame other people for what is wrong with you, to blame your circumstances, to look backwards in your life and look at your family and come up with all kinds of real nice explanations, but they really don't help you to get past these kinds of emotional reactions. There's the invisible part of you. the part of you that processes everything that you experience in your life. This is your mind, your consciousness, your soul, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you label it. It's just understanding that how you process and perceive yourself is determined not by what other people tell you, as much as you'd like to believe that, but in fact by how you have chosen to process yourself. Feel good about yourself. Treat yourself, cherish yourself as a valuable, important, significant, grand, divine creature, as someone who is unique and special in all the world. And feel that way about yourself wherever you go, and carry yourself that way.
What is freedom of speech? It's the freedom to speak. So I read a politician today saying, I agree with freedom of speech, but there are limits. Well, there's no freedom of speech then. Freedom of speech is the freedom to speak. If anyone's not allowed to speak, then it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom to conform to certain parameters of what are acceptable. And then what that's doing is giving power to some authority to decide what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And as we see, and we're seeing it massively now, once you give that power to an authority, it then starts interpreting what can and cannot be said in a way that squeezes and squeezes and squeezes more and more of what cannot be said. This is what political correctness is about. What is political correctness? It's simply manipulating the target population to silence itself, so those in authority don't have to. It's ridiculous. Now, people say, well, you say that people can say anything. Well, yes, I do, and I'll tell you why. There are laws against incitement to racism, incitement to hatred, incitement to violence. There are laws against that.
Are they laws you agree with?
Yeah, and if people use their freedom of speech to incite those things, then there are laws to deal with that, and those laws should deal with it. What I'm saying is, once you start censoring freedom of speech at the point of delivery, or even more sinister, before the point of delivery, by banning people from the right to have access to the communication networks or speak in public, that is what the fascists do. What did fascists do in Nazi Germany? What does any tyranny do? It wants to silence those that are exposing the tyranny and have a different version of events to the tyranny. So what did the Nazis do? They burnt the books. They banned the meetings of people who were exposing the Nazis. And now in this inverted world, we have people who call themselves progressives, and they seem to have this extraordinary self-delusion that progressive mentality has something to do with being liberal, when it's not. It's the opposite of liberal. They are the ones that claim to be wanting people to be inclusive and to have diversity.
But maybe on their terms.
When they're destroying diversity, and they have become the new tyranny. They have become the new Nazis. What I'm saying here is, if you look at what this progressive mentality is doing in silencing people and deciding in their arrogance what people can and cannot say and what opinion they can and cannot have, you look at what the Nazis did, you look at what the communist Soviet Union did in terms of freedom of speech, and you'd show me the difference between them. There is none. And it's this self-deluded arrogance which goes like this: I am right, therefore anyone who says something different must therefore be wrong, and by definition, because they are wrong and I am right, their freedom of speech to be wrong doesn't need to be taken into account.
Well, first of all, if you don't have a purpose, let's say, it isn't that your life becomes neutral in a meaningless sense. It's that your life becomes characterized by unbearable suffering, because the baseline condition of life is something like unbearable suffering. And what you have to set against that is a noble and worthwhile purpose. And hopefully your determination of that purpose is buttressed to some degree by the wisdom of the past, because you can't conjure something like that up on your own. And if you provide people with nobility of purpose, then they can tolerate the suffering of existence without becoming entirely corrupted by it. And cultures that don't do that, it isn't even so much that they die, it's that cultures that don't do that are dead. They're done. They don't have a story anymore. They don't have a call to adventure. And then, well, then everyone suffers stupidly as a consequence. It's a very bad thing. So Churchill made the same observation that many of the great psychologists and philosophers made in the early part of the 20th century. So bring the story forward and propagate it and make it the most noble possible story. And then you motivate people to transcend themselves, which they need to do. So yes, he's exactly right in his diagnosis. People think of freedom as the ability to implement your whim. And freedom opens up that as a possibility. But sustainable freedom, that isn't what it's about at all. It's primarily about responsibility. It's about determining which load you're going to pick up and carry. That's the proper definition of appropriate freedom. It's not dim gratification of instantaneous impulse. It's self-evident that that doesn't work. 2-year-olds do that. And that's why they can't live in the world. They can't organize themselves across time. They can't sacrifice the moment for the future. And the more sophisticated you get, I suppose, in some sense, the more you're able to do that. And then your freedom becomes the freedom to choose the proper responsibility. And that's also not something that we've been good at communicating to young people. If we talk to them about responsibility, we generally do it in a finger-wagging sort of way. It's like, well, you're breaking the rules, you're a bad person. And well, that may be true because people break the rules and there's no shortage of badness in people. But the proper message for young people is to say, well, no, you don't understand. You want to take on responsibility. You want to take on the heaviest load that you can conceive of, that you might be able to move, because it gives your life nobility and purpose. And that offsets the tragedy. And not only psychologically, not only does it offset it psychologically because you have a purpose and something to wake up for, right, and to face the difficulties of the day, but also because if you face the difficulties of the day properly, you actually ameliorate suffering, not only in the psychological sense, but because you make the world at least a less terrible place. And that's something, right? To move things away from hell is something, even if you're not, self-evidently moving forthrightly to heaven. To move things away from the worst they can be is, well, that's a noble goal in and of itself.
See, people are always talking about freedom, but they're always thinking how to bind themselves to something or somebody. If you're really lost in your life, you're absolutely free, isn't it? Hello? No? Freedom is a territory which needs a lot of maturing and culturing to handle. Otherwise, people doing compulsive things, they're thinking they're free. These are compulsive things. Somebody is drinking, if you say, why don't you not drink today, you can do it tomorrow. Why don't I have the freedom to drink? No, it's compulsive. If you're calling your compulsiveness as freedom, it's very unfortunate. You lost all your freedom in compulsiveness. So freedom is that kind of a territory where you have to culture yourself, mature yourself to exist free. Everybody, I think at some point, we provide these opportunities for young people to come and just be by yourself. No compulsive talking, no phone, no drink, no nothing, simple. You eat what you want for nourishment and then simply be. Everybody must spend at least a little bit of time like this, because only then you understand how compulsive you are. Unfortunately, we are translating compulsiveness as some kind of a goal in our life or freedom in our life. No. See, if you want to get somewhere in your life, get somewhere does not mean be better than somebody, do this, earn this, that, no. As a life, your experience of life should become a fantastic experience. So right now, all the crazy things that people are doing in their life, why? They drink, sexuality, temple, this, meditation, whatever they're doing. Why are they doing? Because they want their experience of life to become pleasant. Yes or no? Somebody hits the bottle, somebody hits somebody else, and somebody does something else, but essentially looking for pleasantness. If your body becomes pleasant, we call this health. I'm talking yoga now to you, officially. If your body becomes pleasant, we call this health. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it pleasure. If your mind becomes pleasant, we call this peace. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we call it love. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it compassion. If your very life energies become pleasant, we call this blissfulness. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it ecstasy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call this success. Only for this last one, to make our surroundings pleasant, we need the cooperation of many forces around us. Many things have to fall into place. But to keep your body pleasant, mind pleasant, emotion pleasant, your life energies pleasant, it's 100% your business, not good for the business.
I was talking to my trainer the other day. We were working out in my backyard, and he was wearing my out, man. And I sat down on the wall and I said, man, I'm struggling today, this is hard. And my trainer's a younger guy. And he said, what do you mean? I said, man, this workout is hard. He said, no, man, this is hard. He said, how you came from a poor kid in the projects to this house you got in this neighborhood and the TV star, he said, that's hard. And I had to catch myself, because working out ain't near as hard as the struggle to get where you want. And everybody in this room wants two things. Everybody wants to be successful and everybody wants to be happy. I'm going to tell you something about that. That happiness and success is available for every last one of you. But I'm going to tell you what you're going to have to do. You're going to change your mindset. If you're planning on being successful, you have to change this here. The difference between successful people and non-successful people is right here. It ain't no difference. It ain't none. I ain't got no more than none of y'all got. God gave me the same thing he gave y'all. God loved me the same as he loved all y'all. He don't love me more than he loved you. But you have got to change your mindset. You got to get funky if you want to be successful. If you think that they're going to mail this money to your house, you're dead wrong about that. If you think they're going to pave the way for you and make it easy, you're dead wrong about that. If you want to be successful, you got to change your mind, and you're going to have some faith.
And grow your wings on the way down. See, the people that will live their dreams, the 2% that will do that, these are, and write this down, become a risk taker. They're risk takers. They don't mind failing. They don't mind making mistakes. They're willing to take life on, take life in the collar. This God said, if you're not willing to risk, you cannot grow. And if you cannot grow, you cannot become your best. And if you cannot become your best, you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, then what else is there? I like what Helen Keller said. She said, life is short and unpredictable. Eat the dessert first. Here's something else. Write this down. Make it important to become financially independent. You know, people say money won't make you happy, but everybody want to find out for themselves. You look at yourselves, make it important that you find some way to use your talents and gifts to generate the income that allow you to control your destiny. I read something that said, either you control your destiny or someone else will.
You have got to make some decisions in your life, but you got to tie it to this gift. Your gift is the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. That's your God-given gift. He didn't hide it from you. He didn't put it under the rocks. He didn't hide it in the ocean. You don't need no map to find it. God put it right here when he made you. All y'all are gifted at something. The Bible says your gift will make room for you and put you in the presence of great men. That's a scripture. That ain't a theory of mine. See, I ain't got but one gift. I have the ability to take information and transpose it into comedy immediately. I don't even have to think about it. I don't even have to, it's just what I do.
I dealt with people with multiple personality disorders, 52 different personalities, and how to put them back together. And I dealt with people with no personality who have a much bigger problem. No matter what the diversity of people I've dealt with and the diversity you've seen in this show, the ultimate question I'm always asking is, how do I help people to break through? The question is, what are you breaking through to? In essence, all of us at some level to feel alive have to always feel like we're growing. When people ask me, what does it take to be happy? I always tell them one word: progress. Progress equals happiness. Even if you're not where you want to be yet, if you're on the road, if you're improving, if you're making progress, you're going to love it. You're going to feel alive. On the other hand, it doesn't matter how successful you are. If you stop growing, you start dying inside. Now, how does this relate to this session on breakthrough? Well, I'll say it's really simple. If you and I want to know what it takes to be happy, we have to understand what is our current blueprint of how our life's supposed to be. Now, what do I mean by blueprint? Well, we have a story in our head of how life's supposed to be. Some people's story is you work hard in school, you become really great, you're a nice person, you're a good person, and then you grow up and you take care of yourself and you find the ideal man and you fall in love and you have a white picket fence and you have 3 perfect children and you live happily ever after. Somebody else's story, the old story was, you work really hard in school, you excel in college, you go to work for a big corporation, and you move up through the ranks until you're the president or chairman of the company, and you become successful and respected throughout life. These are some old stories. Obviously, the stories that we hear today of what people's lives are supposed to be like are completely diverse. We no longer have these little archetypes, but one archetype still seems to remain. And that archetype is, in order for you to really feel like you're enough, many people believe they have to achieve an enormous amount. They may do it in different ways. They may do it by building a company and taking it public when they're 27 or 25 years old, or they find and create a new technology, or they become a very special doctor. But we live in a culture in the West that teaches people that you're not enough unless you do something really special and unique, and we define special and unique in interesting ways.
So you got to make it important to take care of yourself. Put that at the top of the list, because you can't do well and can't do good work if you don't feel good. We don't want to be like the man who said, if I'd known I'd live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. Here's something else. Repeat after me, please. OQP. Only quality people. Yes, look at your relationships and ask yourself the question, Jim Rohn would ask this question, what is this relationship doing to me? Sidney Poitier wrote a book called The Measure of a Man. I love the tapes because I love his voice. He said, when you go for a walk with someone, something happens without being spoken. He said, either you adjust to their pace or they adjust to your pace. Whose pace have you adjusted to? MIT did a study, and the study indicated that you earned within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends and associates earn. Who's impacting you? Who's in your ear? What influence do they have on you? Dr. Dennis Kimbrough said, if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group. So practice the principle of OQP, only quality people. And somebody's saying, Les, can I change them? No, it's a full-time job changing yourself. Some people are so negative, they'll walk into a dark room and begin to develop. My family members and friends call me crazy for going to seminars, spending money on books and tapes and going to seminars. When are you going to stop going? I said, when I die.
See, if you and I from this day forward are going to be happy, just remember what we've said. It takes 2 things, grow and give. A meaningful life comes from growing, that sense of progress, and it comes from having life not just be about me, but about we, doing something that makes me feel connected to other people besides myself. That growth, that sense of contribution fills a deep spiritual need that we all have. If you are unhappy in your life, you got 3 choices, really 2. Blame, that's not a choice, it's not going to work. Don't blame someone else, don't blame the event, don't blame yourself. Just figure out what you're going to do to change your life. That's my specialty. If you like my coaching or my team's coaching, come visit with us. Come to an event, come get a coach, come through a program, and we'll guide you through it more than just a few minutes like this, and we'll do it directly in an environment that'll shift you. Or change your blueprint. You're going to have to rewire what's going on inside, and that's what we focus on as well. So I hope this journey has been an interesting one for you. I hope it's opened up your eyes to what it takes to go from where you are to where you want to be. It takes changing your emotional pattern. It takes bringing presence to your life. It takes realizing you have no problems compared to somebody else and putting your life in perspective. It takes the ability to deal with those extreme stresses that happen in your life by questioning your limiting beliefs. And again, we'd love to coach you and show you how to change those in a permanent way where it happens automatically, just like lifting weights so often until the muscle's always there and you find yourself able to follow through. It takes for you to be able to figure out how to deal with crisis and how to turn it around. It takes facing your fear. It takes pushing yourself through what used to stop you. It takes putting yourself in a position where you connect to what's more important than just yourself, what you value than just yourself. And it takes, I think in this case also, the ability to realize that no matter what happens to you, you're more than that moment. You're more than the story you think you're supposed to be. And that even when you're not matching what you think you need to be, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe you're having to find a different part of yourself that's going to fulfill you at a much deeper level. Sometimes failing to get your goal gives you your destiny. I can't tell you how many people I've known over the years who had an idea of what they thought their life was supposed to be like, and they didn't achieve it, and they felt miserable and upset and frustrated, and one day an opening happened and they went, oh my God, thank God that didn't happen. I think it's Garth Brooks had a great song, and it's a song about when he was in high school and he was in love with this girl, infatuated with her, and she didn't even know that he existed. And he prayed to God every day that she would notice him, that she would fall in love with him. And then sure enough, she never did. He was so disappointed. His blueprint didn't match. His life didn't match it because she didn't even know he existed. And he felt this suffering. He could do nothing to turn it around. Well, 15 years later, he became a guy named Garth Brooks, somebody everybody knew, and he could rock, stadiums with his energy and his song and his music. And he goes back to be at his high school reunion. I think it was his 15-year reunion, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact year, but all I remember is he said he saw that woman that he was so obsessed by. He was looking forward to seeing her. And now he was Garth Brooks, and he met her. And after he met her and spent some time with her, he wrote a song called Thank God for Unanswered Prayers. Sometimes not getting your blueprint's the best thing that ever happened, because the disappointment drives you to find something more important inside of you. Or not getting it makes you look for another aspect of your life, a spiritual aspect, a family aspect, a physical aspect. If you can just trust that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, then you can find in any situation a benefit that can take your life to the next level. I don't care if you're Frank and Kristen. I don't care if you're, Mandy and Scott. I don't care if you're Joaquin and Kim. Every one of us in our life is going to face situations where it feels like we have total trauma, something that's been taken from us. The real question is, what are you going to do with it? Some people just live in their story of what they don't have, and they have the right to do that. If Frank and Kristen lived in pain and felt bad, we'd all say they have the right to do it. It's the difference between what you have the right to do and what you deserve to give yourself and others. We have the ability to transcend whatever happens to us. There's something called post-traumatic growth. Very few people know about it. Two people go through the same stress. One's destroyed, the other grows. What's the difference? The people that grow will not give up. They don't have any excuses. They find the way to break through whatever it takes. And when they do, three things happen. Number one, they realize who they really are and what they're capable of. They realize they're so much stronger than they thought they were. And number two, they deepen all their relationships. You want to know who really cares about you, who you love and who loves you? Go through some tragedy, go through some hard times. All your Facebook friends go away. Your real friends, your real family shows up for you, and you show up for them. And it deepens your relationships. And the third thing happens, if you can push yourself through and break through whatever challenges life gives you, is each time you have a breakthrough, you get stronger. And it almost like builds a psychological immunity in you, where suddenly, all of a sudden, it's like stuff happens, and you know stuff's going to happen, and you're not scared of it anymore. Because after you've been through a stroke, after you've been through, losing the use of some of your body, your senses, after you lose a family member, and you break through to that, you get to the other side, it's like, give me your best shot, life. It's almost like there's this psychological immunity that says, I'm ready for whatever life will give me. I don't want challenges, but if they're here, I know I can handle them. That strength of spirit is what creates a sense of freedom and joy in life. And that strength of spirit basically comes from living a life where you are constantly and never-ending flinging away to improve yourself and to help others. That's my mission, and if we can serve you again in the future, I hope you'll check us out. There's 3 ways you can continue to participate with us. You can come to an event, come have an experience with us live in a weekend at our Unleash the Power Within or our Date with Destinies. I think you'll find it's very different than just sitting here talking to you quietly, sitting in front of your computer screen. It's a rock and roll environment. It's like going to the ballpark and having one person sitting there talking to you versus being in the ballpark or the rock and roll concert, you know, with 50,000. There's an energy and a power that comes from it. Second is there's immersion. Here we talk for an hour, there's distractions and emails. There it's total focus, and we go for immersion where literally what we did here over 6 weeks, few little conversations, all that happens over and over again multiple times a day, and you get that shift. So come to an event or call up and get a coach. We have people that you can work with and have a free coaching session and make sure it's really valuable for you. But these are people that can check in with you to help make sure you break through, you make the changes you want to make in your career or your finances or your body or your emotions or whatever area matters to you. And finally, lastly, and probably most importantly, every day you got to feed your mind. Because every day most of us are turning on, you know, some form of news. It shows up in our pocket, in our Blackberries or iPods or our iPhones, I should say. It shows up, on your computer constantly. It chases us, and it rarely does a good idea interrupt you. Really what you have to do is pursue the ideas, pursue the experiences that are going to change your life. And we have a way to do it called net time, no extra time. A way where you can keep feeding your mind the stuff that really matters with some products or services. So if you're interested in any of those things, be sure to click on your interest of an event or interest in having a free coaching session, or maybe try one of our audio programs, because the other challenge here is with video, you got to sit here potentially and watch me, but with audio, you can do it while you're working out, you can do it while you're cleaning the house, you can do it while you're driving in the car, while you're getting to work. We'd love to continue serving you in any way we can. I know I've gone long in this session, but I really want you to think about, how can I get my life the way I want it to be? The way I do it is I figure out what my blueprint is and I update it for what life is. I change my life, match my blueprint, and suddenly my life feels full and alive. Thank you for the time that we spent together here. I've really enjoyed our time, and I hope that this breakthrough series reminds you to never settle for less than you can be. Never settle for less than you can give or you can share. Live strong, live with passion, and God bless.